All right, an update on this Sunday evening. A slew of new winter storm watches have been issued, some here into the Northeast. We're going to look at those, and we're also looking at new winter weather advisories as far south as Little Rock into Arkansas, southern Arkansas. It goes all the way down I-40 and I-30 down here, not quite to Texarkana, but we're still dealing with some ice here. It likely will be north of Memphis here and north of I-40, but you might run into it if you're headed east of Memphis up towards Jackson. This is going to be early, I should say late tomorrow, really into Tuesday. We're also going to be dealing with some snow further to the west. This is not going to be as much snow as we're going to see for areas into the Northeast. We're talking about some snow that could get heavy across Kansas City at times to Topeka. And look, there's even going to be more snow up around the Great Lakes. Confidence just is not going to be as high, and we're also not going to be looking at as much snow here either. So that's what we're going to be digging into in the video this evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Very interesting to see this getting set up here this evening with these winter storm watches out ahead of our storm, which is still way to the west tonight. Some of the ingredients coming together, this is what we're looking at. It's going to be this quick jet streak that's swinging out of the plains into the east. This will probably get cut off. Will not make the final video, but I think it's interesting to look at this divergence, right? This is a really healthy looking setup. If you're just joining the live stream, we're just getting started. We're going to talk about all these new winter storm watches, but I do like to look at what's happening aloft. You know, when it comes to forecasting, one thing that the way I like to forecast is from the top down. Start at the upper levels of the atmosphere, look at the mid levels, and work your way down to the surface. And I was looking at some of this earlier today, and there's your jet streak. Check it out. Very impressive looking. Front right side of your jet streak is typically where you see your best area of low pressure. This is where if you're in a severe weather event, this is where your strong storms would be. In this case, this is going to be where your low pressure is going to want to develop, with a lot of evacuation pulling the air away. Actually, it's more like this. You can follow these airstreams just as well as I can draw them. So good divergence, a good jet streak swinging through the Northeast, and that's going to bring, I think, the possibility of some heavy snow. Now, this is the European. I want to show you, while we're sitting here, we're going to look at all the snow maps in just a second too. But this is the 3K NAM, which has a bit stronger of a jet streak swinging into the Northeast, and with this type of almost a bit of a negative tilt here, you got to wonder, is this going to put some really heavy snow here into eastern Mass and into Maine? That's one thing we're going to look at too in the video here tonight. So thanks for checking the live stream out. Hope you're doing well. Close this out. We will start here with the watches tonight. We're going to go through all of it. So if you're just joining, you're right on time. I know not everyone wants the snow, and if I could control it, I would. No, that's too much power for one person, right? For sure. Oh, my gracious. One thing that you start to see when confidence grows is this, and these are winter storm watches, and typically the National Weather Service holds off on issuing these until there's pretty good confidence, and they're starting to see that too. I want to show you some of the maps. Notice how we're seeing these watches cut off here in northwest Connecticut, also well north of New York City, and definitely north of Philadelphia here, although we could start as a bit of a mix. To me, the heaviest band at this point is still looking like it's going to be pretty much where we're seeing these watches. All right, winter storm watches up now for a good part of southern Maine, eastern Maine, down east Maine, into parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, the southern parts of these states. No watches out right now for Boston, but western Mass. Looks like you are going to get the snow with this one. Also back towards Albany, Binghamton, and then down to Scranton here into the Poconos. Some heavy snow possible. Again, confidence just not strong enough. Generally south of this line, it doesn't mean we will not see any wintry precipitation. If anything, I think what's going to happen is you're going to get that easterly flow that starts to kick in, and it's going to bring the warmer air in from the ocean and mix things up. So not as much snow, if that's what you're hoping for, and way too warm further to the south. An interesting thing that's going to happen, we haven't seen it yet because it's going to be probably a Monday night to early Tuesday morning event, but I think you're going to get some freezing rain in this area, right? So with that said, I wouldn't be shocked if we start to see winter weather advisories get expanded heading into the new products that come out on Monday. More on that to come. But We're close enough in time now that the National Weather Service office is back here into Arkansas, north of Memphis, and here into West Kentucky. And I do believe, we're also including a few counties here we're barely into parts of southern Illinois. So we do have a few winter weather advisories here. And this, my friends, is going to be freezing rain. A little bit of ice to start as the precipitation begins. A lot of it shifting over to rain. Some of the models are trying to actually put a little bit of ice down here into northern Louisiana. That seems a bit extreme to me. And then to the north of this, we have winter weather advisories going here from Topeka, Wichita, central Kansas, southern parts of Nebraska. It does not include Lincoln. It does not include Des Moines, but to the south of these cities and southeast, this is where the heavier bands of snow are going to be. Again, still a little too far out in time for us to see these expand further to the east into Ohio, but as we move forward in time, this will be something to watch. The snow to me doesn't look any lighter, at least it doesn't look a lot lighter than what we're going to see in Kansas and Nebraska. Timestamp is above my head here. We are looking at Eastern time on this, so take an hour off for Central. You know, what I think is interesting is as the light precip moves through Oklahoma, there are a few returns showing up in pink. Maybe a little bit of freezing drizzle early Monday morning, and then temperatures warm up fairly quickly and we see rain. The cold air, though, is going to be kind of trapped here at the surface as we head into Monday afternoon and Monday evening, so some ice possible here across Arkansas. We looked at that with those winter weather advisories, but a pretty decent band of snow working east, a couple of inches out of this. It's not going to be a huge snowstorm, nothing like what we saw over the weekend, but check it out. More snow across parts of Iowa, northern Illinois, and Wisconsin, where we just saw snow. So a coating of fresh powder here on the snow, not on the slopes, but there are a few ski slopes up into Michigan. Not so sure that they're open yet. But anyway, we've got some more snow on the way. And then there's the freezing rain down here to central Arkansas, into west Tennessee, north of Memphis again, and then up towards West Kentucky, right along the Ohio River, cold enough at the surface that there could be some ice, and you saw those winter weather advisories. The snow banding is going to be interesting to see as we head into Tuesday night, or I should say really Monday night into Tuesday morning. It's still night, but it's not the night. It's early Tuesday morning as this pushes off to the east. Some heavy rain across the south, and now we're looking at that precipitation moving further to the east. Let's time this out as we head into Tuesday morning. We'll continue. There comes the ice starting to develop here on the east side of the mountains especially. Now, the problem is you're going to get some southerly flow here on the west side of the mountains. That's going to really cause a forecasting problem here, I think. It's very common. You get this warm surge of air west of the mountains. It changes things to rain, or it keeps it rain from places like Huntington to Charleston. But get east of the mountains, and once you get north of Charleston, you start to get into some deeper, colder air. So from Beckley to Bluefield, south to Boone, North Carolina, to about Asheville. And then along the Blue Ridge, this is an area that typically favors this type of setup for freezing rain. And the cold air is going to retreat pretty quickly, so I don't expect it to stick around long, but it could be, notice the timestamp above my head, falling right at that morning commute, especially the further north and east you go here into northern Virginia, western Maryland, and into the panhandle of West Virginia. Think Martinsburg, West Virginia. Think western Maryland here. So there could be some ice going on. At the same time, overnight, some heavy snow into the early morning hours here across Ohio, from Chillicothe north up to Columbus to Cleveland and Akron. We're getting some heavy snow, I think, at this point in time. And then this starts to push into Pennsylvania. We start to see a transition over to snow here into eastern Kentucky and northern West Virginia. And for the lowlands of West Virginia, it's a little too late for much snow accumulation, but get up here into Pennsylvania. Again, this is going to be the area where we get some heavy snow. Surface low pressure really starting to ramp up by this time period, by the time we get into Tuesday morning. So now with pressure falls near the coast, we'll start to see that influence with that onshore flow. And I'm backing this up because I want you to watch these little radar returns. Notice how they're coming in out of the east and southeast. So we're definitely bringing in some marine air here. It's going to be a little warm, so that's going to transition that mix or snow over to just plain rain, I think, here into the cities, with a heavy band of snow going just to the north of wherever that transition happens. And now we're snowing hard here as we head into the late morning from Binghamton north to Albany, Syracuse, starting to back down now over towards Pittsburgh, which, by the way, we're going to get some snow out of this too, a little more than what we saw with the recent snow. And this quickly moves off to the north. Look at all the convection being depicted here. It tells me, look, something's happening. We were seeing a pretty decent storm start to deepen on the NAM. And on the northern side of that, I think that just would lead to some heavier snow amounts, and that moves away pretty quickly. I do want to zoom in really close here into the northeast because I know the precipitation type is going to be a huge issue here, and where that sets up is going to be the big story, I think, for the heavy snow and the snow knots. All right, here we go. I think Scranton, you're getting the snow north up to Albany, but you can see here into northern Connecticut, we start to see that transition, and the newest NAM is keeping everything almost rain here from Cape Cod up to Boston, maybe a mix, and then over to rain. And then down East Maine, it looks like snow all the way to the coast. I was thinking we might see more of a coastal influence, and I think there is still a chance that you mix over with some rain. But the newest NAM is a little colder. And, I love the NAM in this time frame, especially here at about 40 hours or so, 43, 46. It's pretty good. Once it gets into that 84-hour time frame, I don't know. I don't like it, but this is at 60, and I think this is the NAM's moment to shine usually when it comes to precip type. Let's look at the snow amounts. Oh, by the way, once this thing moves away, it is going to continue to deepen as it moves up towards Nova Scotia, thumping this area with snow. And it's really going to come down in Newfoundland too. Some pretty strong winds too with this nor'easter as it roars away. And then look at all this cold air up into Canada, guys. I mean, it's going to turn cold. More lake effect snow, winter storm watches here across parts of Michigan for what could be a round of more heavy lake effect snow, and the cold air sticks around in this part of the country. Let's talk snow totals, and let's walk ourselves back across the country as we give you a quick update of the forecast too with the newest data that's coming in. There's your heavy snow, 6+, it looks like here from down East Maine into Vermont, New Hampshire, into Western Mass, and then those totals start to go down once you get into Pennsylvania, more like 2 to 4 inches here. So even Pittsburgh, I think we're just looking at maybe 2, 3. The official number here on the digital forecast database is 3.3. So, a couple of inches of snow, the heavier snow into northeast PA. Again, the same areas where we are seeing these winter storm watches, all of this kind of lining up, again, in their forecasting numbers and with the model data, which is lining up as well. Closer look here into the northeast. Look at these totals all the way down to the coast, close to 8 inches. Some areas, especially once you get away from the coast, we're talking about close to 10 to 12 inches of snow. So a very impactful storm as it lifts off to the north. Look at the NAM, very similar. I'm going to go back to the forecast and the NAM. Remember we were talking about that rain snow line? If you're here in Connecticut, again, this is the forecast that's been touched by the digital database. Look at the NAM. It's picking up on that warm air, and I think this is going to be the deal, right? This is going to be your rip-off zone where you may end up having, well, I'll tell you one thing. What you don't see in these areas, too, is enough confidence to issue winter storm watches. All right? So there's that. So I think the National Weather Service, even their forecast may show a little bit of snow here. It's certainly not a lot. And the NAM would say, you're going to get nothing here in Bristol and Hartford and back towards, I don't know, maybe in Poughkeepsie. So there's that. Kind of a complicated forecast there, but looking solid snow, though, further to the north and west. It's not a heavy snow. I'm going to line this out. Anything in blue, that's more than 2 inches. So you're looking at a decent 2 to 4 inch snow across this region. Definitely not a monster snowstorm, but this right here could be a problem. Some of the numbers here, anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice from Pocahontas County, West Virginia, Greenbrier County, down into the New River Valley, along the Blue Ridge, down again into northwest North Carolina, places like Jefferson, get up here towards Grayson County, Galax. I'm thinking of some of these smaller communities out here, head up towards Roanoke. Lynchburg, something to keep an eye on. Then get up towards Charlottesville, Afton Mountain here, some ice, and then into the Shenandoah Valley. I think these eastern-facing slopes are going to be the coldest and probably are going to be dealing with most of the ice. And then it could start some freezing rain too, back here across northern West Virginia, back into northern Kentucky. And then we're watching other areas off to the south and west for some ice. It'll be snow, though, across Kansas, into northern Missouri, Iowa. Again, a couple of inches. Anywhere here, we're talking about 2 to 4 inches. And we've seen some heavier snow. Most of this is already falling across the Rockies into the Wasatch. A little bit more snow, though, later this week, I think, across the west. More on that in just a second. And then again, remember, the freezing rain is something to keep an eye on across parts of Arkansas as we get into the early morning hours. Let's go back here and look at this. I thought I had that map queued up. Apologize about that. Let's go here. So, yeah, a little bit of ice showing up in the forecast. It may just look like a couple of hundredths, and that's probably what it's going to be, maybe 1/10 of an inch at most. but it could cause some problems, and it doesn't take very much ice at all to create big problems. Quick look at the new 18Z European. There it goes. It's not as strong as the NAM, but it's definitely got our storm moving to the northeast. I hesitate to show you the GFS. It's going to be a little stronger, probably a little colder with the snow a little bit further to the south, but it's got our storm. And then once we go beyond this, I'm going to flip back over to the European. This is interesting too. We've got winter weather advisories out right now for parts of the northern Rockies, where we're going to get some snow moving in here to western Montana, and that's going to drop south into the southern parts of Montana. And eventually, I think it's going to drop even further to the south, putting more snow back down here in the west where it's been kind of dry, right? So we could use some snow, especially those ski resorts that have been struggling. This is also going to usher in some cold Arctic air, guys, and it sets us up for what I think is going to be our next storm as we wrap up this week. I don't know how strong it's going to be, but it's a time period to watch. Cold, high pressure settling down across the prairies. Out ahead of this, there will be a little bit of snow for snow-stricken or snow drought-stricken Winnipeg. Maybe you'll get a little bit on the ground here. It doesn't look like a big snowstorm by any stretch. And then those snow showers push south right along that Arctic front. And then we see the snow start to pick up into the Rockies here, into the Wasatch again, pushing more snow into Colorado as that cold air pushes right down the face of the mountains. You can see high pressure setting up here. More snow again into parts of Ontario, further to the east into Quebec, and cold Arctic high pressure setting up shop right across the center of the country. Cold easterly winds coming into Texas. Snow going here into parts of New Mexico and the Four Corners states, and it looks like a heavier round of snow moving into western Canada. So BC over to into Alberta, some heavy snow possible. I think at least some heavier snow, especially as we get into Friday. This is a really interesting look. This could be very significant for British Columbia, also from the Canadian Rockies here along the British Columbia-Alberta border, and I think this drops down into the northern Rockies and in the Intermountain West. All right, here's where I think things get interesting. Once we drop that Arctic air to the south, something is going to probably want to slide along that. The newest European, not nearly as aggressive, but do you see this, right? We could be looking at another system next weekend. All right, it's Sunday. We're talking about next Saturday. A lot of runway before we get to this point in time. I do want to show you the GFS just for some comparison to show you how it is also picking up on it. Right here it comes. There's that heavy snow across the western parts of Canada, northwest U.S. The GFS is even colder here. I don't know that I believe it, but man, it puts an ice storm into North Carolina, and then it tries to put more snow here into the northeast. Brings another system across the Great Lakes. Man, it's a snowy pattern. If you're a snow lover, I mean, it doesn't get much better than this for the first part of December. All right? It could be massive ridge off the southeast and blowtorching with rain. It's not that way. It's cold. It's been below average, and I don't think it's going to change a whole lot over the next couple of weeks as we see. Listen, these are what you would consider fantasy storms, not because you dream of seeing them, but they're just probably not going to materialize is what I mean when I say a fantasy storm. Someone said, why would you fantasize about a snow? It's not the case. But there you go. I think more chances for snow in the coming days. All right. We've talked about the snow totals. We've talked about all of that, what's happening across the west. Again, the heavy snow dropping in here. Closer look at that. Very active across the Pacific Northwest over the coming weeks as well. Some cold air too. Look at these temperatures. I did want to show you this. Out ahead of our system, at least the head of the front, some pretty warm temperatures up into the 30s. I say warm relative to the near or below zero temperatures that are on the way by the middle part of the week. You'll start to feel that in the Dakotas, down into eastern parts of Nebraska. Look at that getting really cold as we head through the middle part of the week. And there's that snow we're dealing with now. A bit of a break, some warmer temperatures, I think, out ahead of the next cold blast, which is poised to move south heading into Thursday and Friday. Look at these high temperatures, guys. I want to let you take a look at where we're headed. This would be Monday afternoon, okay? Tuesday should be a little bit warmer across this region, and then we'll start to see that cold air. Look at it, building in from the north, single digits and teens. This is true Arctic air working to the south and east. It doesn't want to take a straight shot into Texas. If anything, it really kind of wants to move like this with our northwest flow. So high temperatures on Thursday, single digits and teens. It makes sense if you think about it. There's a lot of snow on the ground here too, so that's going to really keep it cold. And then your overnight lows drop near or below zero. We start to see that modify some. I don't know if it's going to modify that much, though. We're going to have, again, there's a lot of snow on the ground here right now. And look at this. Another reinforcing shot of cold air moving into the same areas. It's not moving into Texas. It's not moving to the Gulf Coast, although we are staying relatively cool here. Certainly not Arctic. And, if you go back and you look at some of the long-range forecasting, that was kind of the idea. The Climate Prediction Center has been spot on, I think, and it's looking pretty good with their 8 to 14-day forecast with the cold weather in these areas. There goes the snow we've already talked about. If you're just joining the live stream, you can take it back from the beginning. Again, this is the questionable system as we head into next weekend. I think this one could amp up and be a little bit stronger, one to watch. And then beyond this, it's anybody's guess, right? It's going to turn cold, though. Look at these temperatures. This will be your highs as we head into Monday. A little bit of warm air surging north out ahead of our low in our system. You can kind of see that. And then some colder air moves in behind it as we head into Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening, really. And then the big push of cold starts to move into the Northeast and the Great Lakes again as we head into Thursday. Look at these lows overnight in the northern parts of New England. Possibly getting below zero, highs in the single digits. It's staying pretty chilly across this part of the country. And then another cold blast. This one could be pretty cold compared to maybe even what we've seen lately. Maybe much stronger and a little bit further to the south. All right. That's a quick look around the country. We've talked about snow totals. We've talked about the potential for snow, where it's going to happen and where it's not. See you next time. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with an update.